The taverns of Gorlak Prime smelled of burnt oils and spiced venom. Shadows clung to the cracked walls, while alien assassins gathered around a rusted table, laughing. Their armor was sleek, their blades curved with ceremonial cruelty, but their voices dripped with arrogance. "The guild wastes our time," one hissed, barbed tongue flicking across sharp teeth. "A crippled human. That is the prize?" Another poured black liquor into his mandibles. "The credits are good. Besides, they call him the Planet Killer. Sounds like a bedtime tale to scare hatchlings. I'll slit him before he even rises from bed." The laughter rattled across the tavern, sharp and cruel. They had no fear of humans, not anymore. Humanity's fleets had been crushed centuries ago, its colonies scattered, its legends forgotten, except for whispers of a single man who once destroyed entire armadas. Elias Cade lived only a few ridges away, on the scorched outskirts of the settlement. His home was nothing but a salvage yard, broken hulls, stripped engines, towers of rusted debris stacked against the desert wind. He worked in silence, hands steady, eyes shadowed by years. Every movement carried the weight of scars, old wounds in flesh and deeper ones in memory. At 64, he was a relic among humans, let alone among predators who lived twice that span. Gray threaded through his short-cropped hair, and the lines around his eyes were cut deep, as if carved by starlight and loss. When townsfolk passed, they only saw a gruff old man. Children whispered, but adults shook their heads. Legends did not live in junkyards. Inside him, though, the war had never ended. Night after night he woke in sweat, hearing the screams of his squadron, the roar of detonations, and the silence that followed when entire worlds went dark. His call sign, Planet Killer, was not a boast but a brand he carried like a chain. That night the desert was restless. A low wind carried faint screams. By dawn, a boy staggered into the salvage yard. Blood streaked his tunic, one arm hanging limp, his eyes wide with terror. In his small hand, he clutched a metal insignia, the winged crest of an old fighter squadron. "Sir?" the boy gasped, collapsing against the gate. "They came at night, they laughed at us, they said you were next." Cade knelt, his weathered hands steady as he caught the boy before he hit the dirt. He saw the insignia, recognized it instantly. It was his. "Who gave this to you?" Cade asked quietly. "My father," the boy whispered. Before they killed him. He said, 'Give it to the Planet Killer.'" His voice broke. "But they don't believe you're real. They laughed." Cade's jaw tightened. He wanted to say the words that came to him every time, "I'm not that man anymore." But the boy's eyes held both fear and desperate hope, and silence was the only answer he could give. He carried the boy inside, cleaned his wounds, and laid him on a cot. The boy's breathing slowed, though his grip never loosened on the insignia. Cade stood over him for a long time, shadows pressing in around the flicker of a lantern. By midday, rumors spread through the colony. More had died. The assassins left marks on walls, messages carved in bodies: "Bring us your ghost. Bring us the Planet Killer." Every whisper of laughter echoed like a knife. Cade walked to the farthest corner of his yard, where a heavy blast door lay buried beneath sand and scrap. He hadn't touched it in decades. His hand hovered over the rusted panel. For a moment he saw the faces of his lost squadron, friends who had flown into fire with him, voices that haunted every night. Slowly he pressed the code. With a hiss, gears groaned. Dust cascaded as the doors shuddered apart, revealing the darkness beyond. Inside the hangar, beneath tarps and layers of forgotten years, sat a fighter. Its hull was dented, its paint faded, but its shape was unmistakable: razor wings, twin engines, a machine built for war. His war. He stepped forward. His fingers traced the cold metal, each scar on the hull a memory. He could almost hear the heartbeat of the engines beneath. For a long moment he simply stood there, the silence broken only by his breath. Then the cockpit lights flickered. The old combat AI stirred, its voice crackling from deep within. "System check, pilot recognized." A pause, almost like a sigh. "Welcome back, Planet Killer." The words echoed through the hangar, sharp and merciless. His shoulders tensed. He had buried that name, tried to drown it under years of solitude, yet it rose now, dragging him back into the fire. He closed his eyes. In the distance, faint laughter carried on the desert wind, the assassins mocking, waiting. Cade opened them again, hard as steel. The boy in the other room needed more than comfort. The colony needed more than silence. And the galaxy needed to remember what humanity could do when cornered. He laid a hand on the fighter's hull, voice steady, low. One last flight. The AI responded, almost eager. Weapons offline. Engines dormant. Probability of survival, 12%. Cade smirked faintly. Better odds than before. He turned toward the light spilling in from the desert, his figure framed against the glow. For the first time in decades, Elias Cade felt the old fire stir. The assassins had laughed, but soon, they would learn why his name was spoken like a curse across dying stars. The hangar doors groaned wider, sunlight falling over the battered fighter. Dust swirled like ghosts of battles past. In the settlement, whispers spread. The old man had opened the vault. The relic was awake. And somewhere in the shadows, assassins who had once laughed began to listen more carefully to the wind. The desert winds carried a bitter stillness the following night. Across the colony's outskirts, lights burned low, families shuttered their doors, and silence lay over the settlement like a funeral cloth. Everyone knew the assassins were close. They had already carved their warnings into the bodies of neighbors. The guild did not operate with subtlety. They preferred fear to do half the work. In the command hall of their cruiser orbiting Gorlak Prime, High Assassin Jurkat stood before his warriors. His eyes, black pits flecked with green fire, swept across them. "The human has taken the bait," he declared. His voice was silk stretched over steel. "He has opened his vault. Our spies confirm movement within the hangar. The old one dares stir from his grave." Mocking laughter followed. One assassin twirled his blade, sneering. "He'll die in the cockpit before we reach him. Old bones snap under pressure." Jurkat smiled thinly. "Then let the galaxy watch as we tear apart their myth. No more whispers. Only ash." The assassins bowed, their arrogance sharp as their weapons. Far below, Elias Cade fastened the chest seals of his exoflight suit. The armor creaked, his shoulders ached beneath the weight. He hadn't worn it in decades. He moved slowly, methodical, each latch and strap a ritual he once performed without thought. The helmet locked in with a final click. His reflection stared back from the visor, a face lined by time but not defeated. Inside the hangar, the fighter's systems hummed faintly. Dust burned away from the heat of awakening engines. The AI's voice came clearer now, resonant, almost eager. "All systems calibrated. Weapons grid at 40%. Reactor output steady." Cade climbed into the cockpit, settling into the worn seat. His hands hovered over the controls, fingers remembering grooves as though they had never forgotten. For a long breath he said nothing. Then, "Status on enemy movement? Multiple vessels in orbit. Estimated ground strike within minutes." He exhaled, gaze narrowing. "Open the launch bay." The old doors shuddered apart. Sand swept in with the night wind, stinging across his armor. Beyond the threshold, stars burned above the desert horizon. "Engines online," the AI intoned. The fighter roared to life. Metal screamed as it lifted from the cradle, stabilizers flaring. The dust storm whipped violently around the hangar mouth, and with a thunderous burst the ship tore skyward, cutting through the night like a blade. The assassins descended in waves, sleek craft cutting arcs over the settlement. Beams of plasma flared downward, torching empty structures. Over comms, their laughter echoed. "Where is your ghost, humans? Where is your lion? Bring us the planet killer. We'll get him slowly." The colony's defenders fired scattered shots from jury-rigged weapons, but against the assassins' precision ships, they were dust before wind. Families huddled underground, praying for silence. Then, a news signal flared across the comms, sharp and steady. "Target acquired," the AI announced. Cade's fighters slammed into the formation from above, cannons screaming. Twin bolts ripped through the first assassin craft, tearing it apart in a burst of fire. He rolled left, engines screaming, flipping through debris before striking again. 2 more fell in seconds. On the assassin comms, Jeers cut into shock. Impossible! He moves like the archives! His ship is ancient yet. Cade's voice cut across, cold and steady. You're not the first to think numbers make you safe. He dove into the next cluster, weaving through fire with precision no simulator could replicate. His fighter wasn't faster, but he was smarter, older, deadlier. He baited them into crossing angles, then slipped aside as their shots shredded one another. On the ground, colonists stared upward, disbelief on every face. The sky burned with explosions, each flash lighting the desert as if stars were falling. Children who had grown up on stories of defeat now whispered in awe. The planet killer fights. Inside the cruiser, Jerkath watched the feed with narrowing eyes. His assassins screamed over the comms, panic replacing mockery. He silenced them with a growl. Enough games. Flush him out. Drive him into the open. Tear him apart. His second-in-command hesitated. Master, his maneuvers. No assassin has lasted against him more than seconds. Jerkatha's hand lashed across the alien's face, claws drawing sparks against armor. Do not speak of him with reverence. He is old flesh and a relic machine. Crush him! Cade banked hard, a missile slamming past his hull. Alarm shrieked. He steadied the fighter, grimacing. Damage report? Port stabilizer compromised. Weapons grid at 30%. Good enough, Cade muttered. The boy's words echoed in his memory. They laughed at you. Cade tightened his grip on the controls. Not anymore. He cut engines for a heartbeat, letting 2 assassin ships overshoot, then reignited full thrust. His cannons roared, ripping both apart in a fiery cross. On the open channel, alien voices cracked with disbelief. He herds us, like prey. Cade's reply was steel. Because you are. The battle dragged across the night sky. One by one, assassins fell, their arrogance unraveling in screams of fire and shattered metal. Yet the numbers pressed. For every ship destroyed, another replaced it, hunger for blood outweighing fear. The AI warned. Ammunition running low. Hull stress critical. Cade ignored the alerts. His gaze fixed on the horizon, where the massive outline of the assassin cruiser glowed in orbit, lights glimmering like the eyes of a predator watching from the dark. They'll send more, he said. And then more after that. His voice dropped to a whisper only the AI could hear. This isn't just about me. It's about every colony they think too weak to resist. The AI replied quietly. Acknowledged. Survival probability continues to decline. Then we'll make every shot count. On the cruiser, Jerkath slammed his fist against the console. Half his squadron gone, their corpses littering the desert sky. Yet the humans still flew. Rage burned through his veins. Deploy all wings, he snarled. Bring down the ghost. I want his wreckage paraded through Dominion space. As orders rippled across the fleet, the assassins regrouped, forming a net around the battered fighter. Beams of energy crisscrossed the sky, trapping him in a cage of fire. Cade's sensor screamed. He exhaled slowly, heart steady. Planet killer? The AI asked, almost hesitant. Plan of action? Cade's lips curved in the faintest smile. Same as always. He opened a channel, voice clear, sharp, undeniable. This is Planet Killer. And I'm coming for you. Every comm on the battlefield went silent. The assassins who had laughed now froze, hearing the name spoken in the voice of the man himself. The legend was not a ghost. He was real, alive, and hunting. Cade's fighter flared engines, surging straight into the trap. Explosions lit the desert sky as the myth returned to war. The sky above Gorlak Prime burned with streaks of fire. Wreckage fell in showers, scattering across the desert sands, and still the assassins pressed in. Their sleek craft circled like vultures, tightening their net around Elias Cade's battered fighter. Inside the cockpit, warning lights screamed red. The port stabilizer was gone, hull plating cracked, weapons barely operational. His ship was little more than a coffin with wings. Yet his eyes were steady, his hands calm. He had flown worse odds. Enemy formation complete, the AI reported. 50 vessels closing. Escape vector blocked. Cade's jaw flexed. Then we don't escape. The assassins filled the comms with renewed laughter, though thinner now, edges fraying. Human relic, your end is here. Come quietly. We'll make it painless. Cade's voice cut through like a blade. No. You came to kill a ghost. Instead, you found me. He punched the thrusters, diving straight at the net. Blinding fire erupted from all sides, beams converging, but his ship twisted, rolled, cut through impossible angles. Missiles screamed past, colliding with each other in fiery arcs. 2 assassins broke formation to pursue. Cade baited them, diving low toward the desert surface. He skimmed just above the sand, engines scorching the ground, then pulled up hard. The assassins tried to match his climb, only to collide headlong, exploding into a storm of metal and fire. Alien comms erupted with panic. He's hurting us again, Cade muttered coldly. You're not hunters. You're prey. High above, Zherkath watched from the bridge of his cruiser. Rage churned through him as he saw his assassins fall like insects against fire. He slammed claws into the console, sparks showering. This ends now, he snarled. Prepare the flagship for combat. I'll tear him apart myself. His lieutenants shifted uneasily. Master, Silence, Zherkath snapped. If the galaxy must see this human die, then it will be by my hand. The cruiser's weapons primed, massive cannons aligning with the lone fighter below. Cade's sensors lit with the incoming barrage. A shadow fell across the stars as the assassin flagship descended, dwarfing everything around it. The ship's hull bristled with weapons, enough to flatten the colony in a single volley. The AI's tone dropped lower. Survival odds, less than 5%. Cade smirked faintly. Better than 0. The flagship opened fire. Plasma lances scorched the heavens, each blast shaking his fighter. He dodged, weaving between torrents, but the ship groaned, alarms howling. Panels sparked, the cockpit stank of ozone and burning circuits. Still, he pressed forward. He knew he couldn't outgun the cruiser. But he didn't need to. He only needed to get close. Zherkath's voice filled the comms, dripping contempt. Do you hear me, human? Your myth dies tonight. Your kind will remember your failure as your last gift to them. Cade steadied the controls. Funny thing about myths, he said. They don't die easy. He launched his last missiles, not at the flagship's guns, but at the drifting wreckage in orbit. Explosions cascaded through the debris field, fragments spinning into the cruiser's line of fire. The flagship's own blasts ricocheted, shredding its escort ships in a storm of friendly fire. Alien voices screamed over comms. He's turning the battlefield against us. Impossible. Cade's eyes narrowed. That's why they called me Planet Killer. The cruiser lurched, shields faltering as its escorts disintegrated. Zherkath's fury boiled over. He abandoned the bridge, storming into his personal assault craft. If the human would not die to the fleet, then he would die to the assassin himself. Cade saw the smaller craft launch, its profile sharp, its engines flaring like a predator unleashed. The AI chimed. Signature matches high assassin Zherkath. Cade tightened his grip on the stick. Finally, the duel began. Zherkath's craft struck first, spewing fire in precise bursts. He flew with ruthless discipline, every strike calculated to corner, disable, humiliate. Cade countered with instinct, pulling maneuvers no simulator could predict, stall dives, blind rolls, sudden engine cuts that let shots sail past before reigniting. The two ships twisted through wreckage, fire and shadows swirling around them. Colonists on the ground watched in silent awe as streaks of light cut across the night sky. Zherkath's voice spat over comms. You're nothing but a relic clinging to ashes. Humanity is weak. You will prove it with your death. Cade answered, calm and certain. If one old man frightens you this much, maybe it's your kind that's weak. He juked left, then spiraled through burning debris, forcing Jerkath into a tighter pursuit. The assassin pressed harder, snarling, convinced victory was close. Then Cade saw his chance. Ahead loomed the flagship's reactor bay, exposed from earlier blasts. A single overload would tear the cruiser apart. "AI," he said, voice steady. "Prepare final strike. Warning, collision course will destroy both vessels." "I know." The two craft hurtled toward the cruiser's core. Jerkath realized too late, his calm erupting in furious disbelief. "You wouldn't! You value life too much." Cade's voice was iron. "Not mine!" He cut comms and drove forward, engines screaming, metal straining as he rammed into the reactor bay. The impact shook the heavens. Energy surged, chains of detonations ripping through the flagship. Light swallowed everything in a roar of fire and thunder. On the desert below, the colonists shielded their eyes as the explosion lit the night brighter than day. The assassin cruiser shattered, fragments raining like meteors, fire trailing across the horizon. Then silence fell, vast and absolute. Children clung to their parents, eyes wide. Men and women stood rooted, hearts pounding, as the smoke cleared. Where the cruiser had loomed, only drifting wreckage remained. Whispers spread, soft at first, then louder. "Planet Killer!" The boy Cade had saved in the salvage yard clutched the insignia against his chest, tears cutting clean lines through dirt on his face. "He did it!" he whispered. "He saved us!" Around him, colonists repeated the words, stronger now, no longer whispers but a chorus rising into the night. "Planet Killer lives!" Across alien networks, fragments of the battle broadcast. The assassins' jeers, their screams, the final words of Elias Cade. Fear rippled through species that had long mocked humanity. If one old human could do this, what could thousands do if roused? At dawn, colonists searched the wreckage scattered across the dunes. They found no body, only fragments of the fighter and a single scorched insignia. The boy took it in trembling hands. "He's not gone," the boy said softly. "He's ours now." The people stood together, gazes lifted to the sky. For the first time in generations, hope stirred in their hearts. The assassins had laughed. Now, the galaxy would remember why humanity was never prey. And the legend of the Planet Killer burned brighter than ever.